This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Judith Mancini Today is sponsored by Basic Brands, Inc., providing the highest quality specialty products in the natural food industry. Visit basicbrandsinc.com and enter JMT15 for your 15% discount on your first order, including their very best-selling vitamin E ointment, which restores moisture and elasticity in your skin. Good morning, everybody, and good afternoon to you on the East Coast. It's coming up on your lunchtime, so I hope you're tuning in to hear us. I'm going to jump right into the news today because there's a lot going on, and I want to finish this before I get into Winkin, Blinkin, and Nod and sleep. So today, or last night, southern Lebanon, launched 100 rockets into Israel, and fortunately, there were 34 of them fired, and 25 of them were deflected by that iron circle that the Israelis have around their country. So we haven't heard how much damage there was or what the result is going to be. But Prime Minister I can never pronounce his name correctly. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. I'm sorry. I'm a little slow today. He's meeting with everyone in his country that are involved in the defense this evening to see what their response will be. So we want to keep an eye on that because this is tantamount to declaring war on somebody sending 100 rockets in at once. And I don't have a report on the damage. So we'll keep a close eye on that. Then I'm worried about our country. There is more crime all the time. And we just got word this morning that a tech executive, a giant in the world for Cash App, Bob Lee, was stabbed to death in the Embarcadero area last night. And guess whose district that is? Pelosi. Does she do anything for her district? I don't think so. This is a tragedy. There's a tragedy every day in San Francisco. It's a mess. And many other countries. Right around us, we've had people beaten up, carjackings, crazy people driving around parking lots, crashing into cars. I don't know what's going on in this world, but it's not a good thing. There were 3 teens in Florida killed, stabbed to death. 2 girls and a boy. I think they're getting close to solving this. And what they're saying is there are all kinds of gangs around now. Not only are the big gangs that are involved with the cartels smuggling people and distributing drugs and terrifying people, but they're all now what they're calling garage gangs that are little neighborhood gangs that are trying to make themselves known so that they can be part of the big gangs. Don't tell me that Mexico is out of control with the cartels. We're out of control with the gangs. You may as well call them cartels. These people that are smuggling drugs across the border and people across the border are working with the cartels. So they're trying to become members of the cartels too. So we've got a real problem here. Now, it's interesting to me to see that I believe it's around 27 Russian journalists are speaking out and asking for Putin to be sure that our journalist for the Wall Street Journal is released. He was abducted and arrested. Nobody knows exactly why. They say he was saying the wrong things or spying. We're certain he's not. He's been there for years working there. He would have done something before, but he's not. So let's see what happens, and let's hope that they don't drag this on in the United States forever, trying to get him back. It's really something to see the Russian journalist speaking out against this, because that could be very detrimental to them. They could be arrested, they could be shot, they could be tortured. So there is hope for some of the people in Russia if we have good people like this working to get our journalists freed. The China, the dollar, our dollar is weakening. You know, we used to be the currency that everybody in the world used. If you went anywhere, you could pay with a $20 bill. You could go to Europe, to any of the nations over there, and if you didn't have your money exchanged to euros, you could pay often in a dollar. You could do the same thing in Mexico. You could do it all over the world. But now China is turning around and making deals with people that are now using the yuan, Y-U-A-N, or yuan, and it's eroding our dollar. Brazil is working with them to only take their real and the yuan. This is a very bad thing because it's hurting common people in the United States, not just banks, with the dollar going down in value, but your buying power here in the United States for your food and transportation, the gasoline and everything is going down. All right, I want to read this to you. It's a short list. This is a timeline that a friend sent me. He will remain anonymous. He put it all in writing. I just want to read this to you, how fast you can become a communist country with no value to your money and everybody starving. 1992, Venezuela became the third richest country in the hemisphere. 97, they became the second largest purchasers of F-150s. Those are jets for the armed forces. Voted for socialist president, income inequality in 2001. In 2004, private health care became completely socialized. 2007, higher education became free. Does that remind you of paying student debt? Socialists banned private ownership of guns. They're trying to take our guns away. This is really bad. 2012, Bernie Sanders praised their American dream. Praise Venezuela, the American dream? 2014, opposition leaders are imprisoned. And that's where we are now, after what just happened with the former President Trump. 2016, food and health care shortages became widespread. 2017, the Constitution and elections were suspended, and they haven't been reinstated. 2019, unarmed citizens massacred by their own government. It's coming, folks. You need to pay attention, you need to stand up, and you need to speak out. If you want the freedoms that we have in this country, it is now time to let your thoughts be known. If you want to move to a socialist country, be my guest. But we don't want socialism here. And we are on the verge of socialism and communism. Okay, let's go to sleep. Today is Winkin, Blinkin, and Nod, chasing sleep. How many of you out there have a problem sleeping? A ton of you. And what we want to know is, how are some very brilliant people, high-functioning people, sleeping on little sleep? I want to get into this before we get into the rest of it. Little sleep means it's less than 6 hours. So Elon Musk has told everybody he sleeps about 5 to 6 hours at night. He works until midnight, goes to bed, and gets up early. So there you have it. He is a high-functioning individual, and he's very brilliant. It doesn't seem to affect him that he has little sleep. Then there's President Trump, and sometimes he sleeps 4 to 5 hours, and he certainly is high-functioning. With all the stress in his life and running this country and turning it around when he was in office before, it's amazing to me how he could do on such little sleep. Now, all of this little amount of sleep, 4 to 6 hours, is known as the Thatcher gene. That's Margaret Thatcher, who was the first female PM, Prime Minister of the UK. And she did it on 4 hours sleep. Amazing people. Me, I need a little more. And I certainly haven't done what these other people are doing. Except I will tell you, when I was building my publishing company, I slept very little because I needed to turn it around and make it successful. So that's what people sleep on. Now there's a movement to tell everybody to get up. It's not out there so much now since COVID. You must get up at 5 a.m. and start your day if you want to be a success. But we're not going to talk about that because that's gone. People are not saying that. People are actually saying they don't want to go to work. They don't want to go to the office. They want to sleep in and they want to work from home. So a lot of people, though, have difficulty falling asleep and staying asleep. And there's a difference from little sleep to insomnia. Difficulty falling asleep and staying asleep could be insomnia. Irritability, depression, or anxiety, waking too early every single day, waking during the night and not returning to sleep. That could all be little sleep, or it could be the beginning of insomnia, which means you are awake for many hours a day. Now, some of these things could be very dangerous, like continued insomnia, which goes on for maybe 6 months or more, needs to be addressed by a sleep expert or a physician. We always want you, before you do anything that we suggest or tell you about, check with your professional healthcare physicians and sleep experts. It's dangerous and it's a concern that everybody should think about because chronic insomnia can cause very different problems. One of them is the depression that is very, very bad, and it doesn't help to take antidepressants with insomnia. They're not necessarily going to help you go to sleep. You need to go see that expert for that. Now, let's talk about the sleep cycles that you should be going through. REM, I think people have heard a lot about that. That is rapid eye movement, and that should last 90 to 120 minutes. There are 4 to 5 cycles when you're sleeping. It starts with non-REM, non-rapid eye movement. And that's usually lasts about 10 minutes when you're falling asleep, the first 10 minutes that you're sleeping. 30 to 60 minutes is the number 2 non-REM sleeping. And that's when your body slows down, your temperature lowers, your blood pressure lowers, your heart rate lowers, and you're in a relaxed state of mind in your brain because your entire body is relaxing. So that usually lasts about 30 to 60 minutes. Now, you're not consciously thinking of these different cycles. This is when you're sleeping and it's going through your body, through your brain. The third one is the third non-REM, non-rapid rapid eye movement. And that's when you are totally relaxed and in a deep sleep. That comes up to the actual stage of REM, rapid eye movement. So what happens is when you're asleep with the non-REM cycles, your eyes stay closed like this and they don't move. Okay? When you go into a REM cycle, your eyes go like this. Can you see my eyes moving around? You wouldn't know you were doing that unless you're doing a sleep study. That's when you dream. This is when you solve problems in your head. Maybe you were worried and you were going to bed with, I'll use my magazine again, the circulation, and you want to think of a way to really boost it. So you're dreaming about it. Or you could be dreaming about sad things and wondering how you could ever get over your mourning. You could concentrate on seeing during REM the person you've lost. Now I'm talking about death. I'm not talking about divorce or something like that. Although maybe when you're sleeping and in the REM phase, you can think about how you're going to do this amicably. You could think about how you're going to get your children into college. You're going to be thinking about, oh, what could I do as a side hustle at home to make some extra money during this inflation and recession? But you could actually also call up a picture of the one that you lost to death, to passing on. And I have been dreaming quite a bit about my son, not about the sadness of his passing, but about happy memories. And I think he's trying to let me know he's okay. Now, everybody can interpret your dreams differently, but a lot of people don't remember their dreams. And there are a lot of people out there who can interpret your dreams for you, all sorts of things. I used to have dreams about flying. I was a stewardess, by the way, early on when I was still in my youth. And after I stopped flying, I used to have these strange dreams during REM where I was flying down the canyons that go into Aspen and some of the other ski areas. And if you've ever gone into there, and it's probably not the same now, but there were mountains on either side of the runways and lots of trees and rocks. And you would go in and you'd go in steeply and you'd go between these canyons and you'd land on that landing strip. Well, I used to dream about this. And I used to dream that I was a stewardess on the flight and I had to save everybody. We never actually crashed in any of my dreams or in real life. But for some reason, I guess that really bothered me flying into those different ski areas. So I dreamt about it and I knew how to get people off the airplane and then go have a good time skiing. Crazy. So your dreams can do a lot of things for you. And that is what we're aiming at, is to get you through these 4 stages or 4 cycles of sleeping. If you don't have REM, rapid eye movement, it could and usually will influence your learning and particularly your memory. You need to get that rest. You need to get those 4 cycles in, even if you only sleep for 5 or 6 hours. So you need to train yourself to do this. You need to be able to fall asleep within 10 minutes. If you don't, then you know there's something bothering you and keeping you awake. And there are certain things you should do that will keep you from sleeping. You should not be eating a heavy meal or a spicy meal an hour before you're going to try to go to bed. It's better to sleep earlier and wake up earlier than it is to stay up till midnight and try to get the 6 hours in. Now, this is if you're not one of these geniuses like the people I mentioned before, Elon Musk and other people like that, because there are not enough hours in the day for these brilliant people to work. And so they have trained their bodies and their minds to do this other way of sleeping, going to bed at midnight and getting up at 5. Now, that might work for you too. Who knows? Sleeping habits are something you have to learn and train yourself in. So you also wouldn't want to have caffeine past noon. And I'm talking about iced coffee, Red Bull. People are drinking Red Bull. It's loaded with caffeine. You get jittery. You get what you think is enough energy to get through your day and complete your tasks that really demand all of your brain power. I just don't like these caffeine drinks. And by the way, if you have any kind of heart problem that you're not even aware of and you drink one of these caffeine drinks in a can, you very well could set yourself off to have a heart attack. So I think you should be very careful with those. And definitely it's going to interfere with your sleeping time later. The common thing is to check the temperature in your room and keep it between 60 and 67. And that's particularly important in the summertime. If you don't have air conditioning, at least get a fan that blows the air around in your room. You want to keep the room dark. You want to not use any of your tools like your iPhone, the television that now, unfortunately, is giving off a lot of blue light with all these different applications on them. And of course, you want to check your mattress and your pillow. A lot of people like to sleep with a little elevation on your head. I'm one of them. But my husband prefers to have an absolutely flat pillow. He sleeps on a pillow, so it raises him up probably this much. Me, I like to be raised up like this. So I actually sleep on 2 pillows. And no, there's nothing wrong with me health-wise. I just prefer that. So those are the things that will help you sleep better. What I want to tell you is who and should be looking at REM to live a happy life. Adults need about 20% of rapid eye movement in their lives. And interestingly enough, infants, when they're developing and all, need 50 to 70%. That's why you come home from the hospital or wherever you've had your baby and he sleeps so much, he or she sleeps so much. And then they feed on their formula or their mother's breast milk, and you tap them on the back and you change them and powder them and make them all nice. And then the little angel goes back to sleep in their bed. They need 50 to 70% for the development of all their systems in their body. So as you grow older, that is also a reason why teenagers who are in junior high, high school, particularly high school, that's why they sleep so much. They need that REM sleep because they are studying so hard and learning so many different things. And without that REM sleep, they can't do it. Their brain won't be functioning the way they are. So actually going out and partying and thinking that you're going to sleep after so many beers or shots or whatever the heck you're doing these days, we certainly hope it's not drugs, because you might not wake up from that and forget the REM sleep because it's over, buddy. So don't do that. So when you get that REM sleep, you're going to find out that your chemistry class, your math class, all of the things that are involved in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and now we have the arts in there. So you need that sleep. You need the good kind of sleep. There are problems that you can get also when you're not getting the REM sleep. People have been studying and they found out that without it, the pain in your body and your joints is even greater. And this is especially true of older adults who are finding that they can't sleep past 6 hours or they can't sleep past 4 or 5 hours. And that's why you need to train yourself to get back into the sleeping. You need to go to bed at the same time every night. You need all the distractions to be away. So it can also increase migraines. If you're prone to migraines, without your REM sleep, you may have more severe and more often migraines. It's also a known fact that if you don't get enough sleep and you don't get that REM sleep, you may struggle with obesity. I know that sounds funny, but it's true. There are a lot of studies that prove that. You need to do a lot of things to prevent obesity. So you need to take care of your body and your brain. One of the things that happens during some REM sleep, if you're having other problems, health problems in your body, it may increase these sleep disorders, and it's time to see a doctor. One of them is sleep apnea. That's when you stop breathing, or you may be snoring, you stop breathing, you stop snoring, and you're going, and you can't, breathe for minutes sometimes. That's very dangerous. So that needs to be addressed by a medical professional. And it also can cause depression and things like Parkinson's disease. There's all sorts of things that contribute to dementia and Alzheimer's, and not getting REM sleep is one of them they are discovering. So that's another reason you want to concentrate on that REM sleep. The other thing I want to talk about is there are different ways that can help you in this era of little sleep. One of them is worrying. That does cause people to lose sleep, and we have such horrible things going on in the world now. This is really bothering a lot of people, and they're not sleeping well. It's affecting mothers, it's affecting fathers, little children, because don't think that your little children go to school and don't know what's going on in the world. I'm going to use my daughter as an example here. She has an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, both little boys. And the 4-year-old is in pre-kindergarten and her 8-year-old is in the 2nd grade. They go to public schools. My 8-year-old grandson goes to an immersion school where they teach in Spanish and English. His father is Argentinian, and of course, we live in California, and it's a necessity to speak the language of a lot of our neighbors. And we want to do that because we also want to communicate when we go to Mexico and different places like that. So my daughter told me the other day, and this is personal, but she told me that all the time when she drops her son off at school, she wonders if something will happen to him. And she called me the other afternoon and she said, Mom, I don't think you've heard this, but his school was shut down today, locked down today, because the high school is like a block and a half from the elementary school. And there were rumors of an active shooter. So if your child is having problems, by the way, there was no active shooter. We don't know why that happened, but they told the kids this is not a drill. This is the actual problem, and you need to go into and do everything they have. All the kids now in all the schools, be they private, public, all the way from preschool, all the way up to high school and university. They all have active shooter drills. God forbid that you get a call, a text. That's how they communicate with parents. I didn't even know. My daughter told me that. If you get one of those notices, first of all, be aware that you can't go to the school immediately because they don't want you in the way of trying to solve this problem. And secondly, they're not going to let you go see your child because it's dangerous. So they will let you know when they're off of lockdown, and they will give you a meeting place and where to pick them up, or if they're going to stay in school the rest of the day. As I said, God forbid this happens to any of you. So my point in this is everybody has sleeping problems. My daughter has sleeping problems because she worries about this constantly. She has a career. She has a husband. She has another grandmama living with her right now. And it's frightening. So she has a problem sleeping. Now, her children experience having problems going to sleep at night now. And they have for a little bit since these crazy things have been going on, because once you get to be a certain age, whether you're allowed to watch the news at home, which I certainly hope you don't let your children watch the news, but they hear them in school because some parents will go ahead and discuss these things in front of the children, or the news will be on and it will go around the school of what is happening. So if your child is having a little bit of sleeping problems now, maybe you need to sit with them a little longer. Maybe you need to read a second book. Maybe you need to just snuggle up with them so they feel safe. I don't know what the answer to this one is because it's just a torturous, horrible thing. So another thing that will help you with your sleep, I want to skip over this. I don't want to run out of time today. Is there are now sleep tracking devices, and you can get them in different manners. You can get them for your wrist, which could also be not only a sleep tracker, but it could be a health tracker. It can tell you how many miles you walked, how many steps you've taken. It can give your all sorts of things, blood pressure, heart rate, lots of different things like that. So some of them that are very popular right now are Fitbit, the Apple Watch, With Things Sleep. Withings Sleep. I've never heard of that, so I'm not familiar with it. And BioStrap EVO. They're telling you exactly how much sleep you've gotten. I don't know exactly how they work and how they track this. So they will tell you that. They'll tell you when you go to sleep, when you wake up, how many hours you've slept. And there are some known wearables out there that I don't know what they are, but the wearables can be put on your chest or as a bracelet, like a ring. They have those, a chest strap, or even a mask or headband design. I don't think I could sleep in something like that. Maybe a wrist or a ring. And if you have a non-wearable, apparently they're thin enough that you can slip it under your pillow or your sheet, and they'll track your sleep. My question about that is exactly how much are they tracking of you, and where does the information go? Of course, it goes back to you, but people are getting all your data. I don't know about these things. Look, I'm one of the crazy ones that have taken things out of my house that I'm afraid that are tracking us. I'm not into tracking. But I will tell you that the sleep trackers will include a lot of things if you get one of the higher priced ones, and you may want to spend the money on it if you're having a real problem sleeping. It will do your heart rate and variations of it. I guess it could even show you AFib if you have it, where your heart beats at a different rate periodically. because that would certainly be a variation. Your breathing patterns, so that would show you sleep apnea if you stop breathing for a certain amount of time. When you awake and when you go to sleep, snoring, which goes back to sleep apnea, your body temperature, the room temperature and the humidity, and light and noise levels. Now, they say they'll put it into your device, but where else are they going to put it? That's my that's my question. And once you know this, what are you going to do with it? First of all, what's your budget? This could cost $100 or $300. You know, you have to balance everything these days. And some of the really wonderful ones that are trying to help you improve your sleeping patterns, they could cost as much as $2,000 to $5,000 on some of the fancy watches and rings and things like that. So you need to take all of that into consideration, because if you don't have $2,000 and you're spending it on your sleep, you know what's going to happen? You're not going to sleep because you're going to wonder how you're going to pay that from your grocery money. And that's the way we're living right now. So be careful what you get yourself into. So the more things that your sleep tracker does, the more expensive it's going to be. There's another thing that happens when you're in REM, and this may really affect your sleeping partner more than you. That's if you have restless leg syndrome, or you're having a bad dream and you're fighting. You might be punching your sleeping partner, which is not a good sign. So this is another good reason, if you're having a lot of problems, to see a sleep expert. You know, if you go see a sleep expert, they can put you in a bed and hook you up with all of these different devices and track you, and you can go to sleep. I don't know how you go to sleep, but they say you can do that, and they can help you figure out how to sleep better. What I want to tell you is, unfortunately, when people get dementia or Alzheimer's, this often happens to people. They dream and they start lashing out with their extremities, and that can be frightening to the person who's sleeping with them, and obviously not restful for the person experiencing it. And that's why you really need to call a doctor and a sleep expert. I want to know why Alzheimer's and dementia is cropping up more and more, and so do a lot of people. So they are now studying what happens between people who don't get enough sleep and get the required 6 to 7 to 8 hours. So let's figure out what's keeping you awake. Go through all those things we talked about and get help if you need help. I want to just say that I'm a big fan of not taking pharmaceutical drugs. Sometimes they're quite necessary, but those of you who are depressed, I want you to watch them very carefully. Antidepressants will not help you with your sleeping. Antidepressants may smooth out your anxiety or your feelings during the day, but they're not sleeping pills. A sleeping pill is more like an Ambien, and now Ambiens are time release. There is a time and a place for these pharmaceuticals. I always use my grief as one example. I did take it for nearly a year after my son passed. I'm not taking it anymore because no matter what they say, they are addictive and they're a controlled substance. And I don't want to be on anything like that. I have some friends who have been on these really heavy duty antidepressants, that do knock them out. And I always wonder what else they're taking with them. So as with any other drug, if you're going to be given Ambien or something like that, be sure to tell your doctor and healthcare provider what other medicines and pharmaceuticals you're taking, because you don't want any interaction on them. And that's true also of using over-the-counter sleeping aids. That would be something like a Sleepy's or whatever they have. I've never taken one, so I can't give you all the names. I should have looked up some, but I don't have any of them. So be very careful with that, and be careful of drugs and things that interact. Another thing that I want you to remember is there are some natural sleep aids. Now, a lot of people are against the natural food industry with food supplements and natural products, herbal, acupuncture, you name it. A lot of people are against alternative medicine. So I believe in it. And I know a lot of you who do follow me and listen to me speak know that there are things you can take that will help you. And they're not as heavy duty as some pharmaceuticals, and you definitely cannot become addicted to them. But they can have side effects. So if I were you, I wouldn't try to mix my own potion. I would go to an herbalist or a nutritionist or somebody who is a doctor involved in alternative health and ask them what to do. But I'm going to give you a list of things that you could take that might help you. Now remember, ask somebody and get some more information, look them up on the internet, whatever you want to do. Some of them are supplements and some are herbs. And the most common supplement is melatonin, and you probably hear it on television a lot. These are not controlled substances. These are things you can buy in a health food store. You can get melatonin without anything else in it, or you can get melatonin with several other herbs that would be in a capsule form or a pill form that you might try. Be sure you follow the directions on the label and make sure you're not allergic to anything, because a lot of these are plants, so you should know what you're allergic to and what you're not. So there's melatonin as a supplement, and there's L-tryptophan. L-tryptophan is fairly popular because, you know, after your turkey dinner on Thanksgiving, well, turkeys are full of L-tryptophan. So that makes you sleepy after you have 3 or 4 slices or eat the drumstick on a turkey. Chicken doesn't have so much. It's the turkey that does it. So that's why you can always have a good nap after your turkey dinner. Some of the other supplements that you should be taking on a daily basis are vitamin D. I particularly like vitamin D3. It's good for so many different things. But one thing it's very good for is sunshine, because during COVID and during this horrible spat of climate warming, where everything in the United States is frozen solid or raining and flooding, you're not getting enough sunshine. So you should be taking vitamin D, vitamin D3. Check it out. Always look these things up. You can look them up on the internet, and that will help you decide too. Then there's magnesium. That's something you should always take. Then there are the herbs that I recommend. One is valerian. The other one is ashwagandha. A lot of people are taking ashwagandha now to calm themselves down and fight anxiety rather than taking pharmaceuticals. And all of these you can buy separately, or you can find some things that have several of them in it, whatever works for you. Chamomile. Chamomile is very popular to take in tea, but you can take it in other ways too. And passion flower. So all of those things will help you if you get in your routine and you try some of the things I've mentioned to you. Keep your room cool, keep your bedding comfortable, keep your partner from snoring and having sleep apnea, get your REM sleep, and all of that will help you. So at the conclusion of today's show, I want to say, try all those things, get in the habit of going to bed. You know, one person who goes to bed early is Tom Brady. Look what it's done for him. All right, so he goes to bed at 8:30. Maybe that's a little early for people. But you go ahead and check out these herbs and supplements, and I wish you sweet dreams. And I want you always to cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today. Thank you for joining me today.